We are going to be kicking off this week's analysis with BTC. For the past couple of months, we all know that price has been collapsing, right? Creating a double top here, breaking below this neckline, blasting all the way to the downside, coming into this zone, and now we started seeing a pullback. I mean, this is the monthly time frame, so we've seen 3 months of price action. This is the 3rd month, and it's pretty bullish, obviously. And I'm expecting price to come into this zone. Now, when we come into this zone, I expect 2 things: either we reject this zone and push lower, or we blast above the zone and keep pushing higher. All right, but let's get to that point first, right, before we make our next trading decision. Now let's go down to the weekly time frame. So on the weekly time frame, we are seeing something like an inverse head and shoulders pattern, with this and this the shoulders and this the head. Okay, and now we've broken above the neckline with this impulsive bullish candlestick. All right, so I'll be expecting price to keep pushing higher into 29,000 or 30,000 area. All right, let's go to the daily time frame. Let's look for immediate trading opportunities. If I zoom out, you will see that price has broken out of this zone that has been tested multiple times. If you look left, I mean here, here. All right, now blasted above with such an impulsive move to the upside. Now what I would have loved to see is for price to pull back into this level that has been tested multiple times, if you look left, before going bullish. All right, but will that happen? I mean, with this bullish impulse I'm seeing here, that's the chances of that happening is kind of low for now. So let's go to the 4-hour time frame where we make trading decisions. So you can see how price is creating higher highs and higher lows. This is a new higher high that has been created. All right, so I'll be expecting a higher low here for price to push back and continue its uptrend. All right, now it's either we see that pullback here into this zone or into this zone. All right, and this is why we need to wait for confirmations before we execute our trade, because let's say price comes down into this zone, it may come down with an impulsive bearish candlestick, and I don't expect you to just buy automatically from that zone, right? You want to see price come back there, sit down for a bit before pushing higher. All right, if you are on the mentorship program or if you have the course, you know what to look out for when price approaches an important area of interest. But what I'll be expecting for next week is for price to pull back into one of these zones before giving us a bullish continuation. But if that doesn't happen and price chooses to keep going upward, then I will let the trade go. If you're enjoying this video, please do well to like this video and subscribe if you haven't. Thanks as you do so. Now, if you trade a very sizable amount of capital, you will naturally be very careful of the types of trade you jump into. So for now, I'm not interested in the dollar pairs because price is not doing what I want at the moment. So for now, my focus is on JPY pairs, BTC, and oil. So let's quickly jump to oil before we go into some of the JPY pairs I am looking at the moment. So price has broken below this level that has been tested multiple times. It has been used as resistance in the past, support, resistance, and now price has broken below that zone again. So I expect price to keep pushing lower, but is it just going to come down straight? Definitely not. So let's go to the weekly time frame. On the weekly time frame, it's obvious, it's clear, we are creating lower lows and lower highs, lower lows, lower high. Now we have a new lower low. So what should we be expecting? A lower high. All right, now this is the way I'm expecting the lower high to play out. If you see price created a new lower low last week, I called this trade on the Telegram group, and once again, congratulations to those that actually took the trade. Now price came into this zone, or price is approaching this zone, or price is actually sitting on this zone that has been tested multiple times. And remember, this is the weekly time frame, so the higher time frame plays a very huge impact in our trading decision. So now price is there, and price has rejected here multiple times before. When price broke above, it came back into that zone and what pushed price higher, and now price is back to that zone. So yes, I'll expect some kind of a reaction, and if we don't get that reaction, which should give us our pullback before we continue the sell, that we eventually break below this support, then I'll be expecting price to just come straight up, break below this support. Then at that point, I'll definitely be expecting that pullback into that zone. Then of course we scale down to the lower time frames, which is the 4-hour or the 1 1 hour time frame to look for entry opportunities to trade the sell all the way to the downside. No, so now before I move to JPY, I'm going to do a quick recap. What am I expecting at this zone? I'm expecting a pullback, right? Maybe a pullback into this area or a pullback into this resistance here before I'll start looking for what selling pressure to push price to the downside. But if we don't get that pullback from this zone, and let's say we start next week and for whatever reason price decided to break below this support, then what will I be waiting for? I'll be waiting for a pullback into this area. Then at that point I'll look for entry reasons on the lower time frame, either on the 4-hour time frame or on the 1-hour time frame, to sell all the way to the downside. So now let's go to JPY index before we look at the JPY pairs. Let's start from the monthly time frame. The JPY index is clear, price is down, all right? But for the past couple of months, we have 5 months of price action between this candlestick and this current month we are in right now, and you can see big bullish candlesticks to the upside. Here we had a bullish engulfing candle, then the next month also closed with a strong bullish move, and then we had 2 months of bearish price action, and this month we are seeing that bullish continuation. Right now, let's go to the weekly time frame where we'll get to see things clearly. On the weekly time frame, we can see that we are beginning to form something like an inverse head and shoulder. It's not a legit inverse head and shoulders yet until we break above the neckline. All right, it just looks like an inverse head and shoulders is forming, but until we break the neckline, it is not. But for now, it's clear price is creating higher highs and higher lows. As you can see, between this zone and this zone, we broke above this market structure here and this one, and even this most recent market structure. So we went up, came down, pushed up, creating a new higher high, came down. This is like a higher low forming, but it's not a higher low yet until we create a new higher high, right? But what I'm looking for overall on JPY index is for price to come into this trend line that has been tested about 3 times historically. So I'm expecting price to come back into that zone before we start seeing some retracements or whatever. All right, so but for JPY index, I'm still expecting the bullish continuation, at least to this zone first and then this trend line. So since we've seen what is happening on the JPY index, before I move to the JPY pairs, remember, why am I looking at the JPY index? I'm looking at JPY index because if we see a bullish momentum on the JPY index, so that simply means we should expect a strong JPY amongst or across the JPY pairs. So what does that mean? If JPY index keeps pushing higher, that means if you are trading EURUJPY, it automatically means JPY will dominate Euro, or at least that's what you should be looking out for. And if JPY index is bullish, if you are trading GBPJPY, then expect a strong JPY. If you are trading CadJpy, expect a strong JPY, and so on and so forth. But it doesn't happen like this 100% of the time, all right? But in most cases, this is what actually happens, and that is what you should be looking out for. So let's go to USDJpy. But before we dive into it, once again, if you've not liked this video, please pause this video, and what are you waiting for? Just hit that like button, and if you've not subscribed, also do that. All right, now let's continue. On USDJpy, let's even go to the monthly time frame. There's a conflict of interest between buyers and sellers on this currency pair, and if you ask me, I don't like it. I actually don't like it. So before I go into the analysis, at least let me show you what or why I'm sounding like this. Now we have something like an inverse head and shoulders here, right? It's not really clean, but it does look like it, right? And we broke above the neckline, and then we came back into that zone that has been tested multiple times, looking left. In fact, if you go further left, you see all these areas here, right? And then when we came into that zone, we saw a bullish engulfing candlestick, right? So normally, in fact, I've seen this kind of pattern play out many times. I mean, I've been trading for over a decade, for way over a decade now. So I've seen this play out. So I'm even surprised, as a matter of fact, why is price coming down? Right? Of course, I know there are fundamental impacts to these things, but I'm talking about this from a technical perspective, right? This is not supposed to be coming down, right? But well, that's the market for you. Then let's go to the weekly time frame. On the weekly time frame, we were between this zone to this zone, we're creating higher highs and higher lows. Then we came to this zone and we blasted all the way to the downside, creating a new lower low, breaking below this low eventually, right? And now we pull back and it does look like we're about to create a new lower high. All right, so now on the weekly time frame, we are sitting on this important zone here that has been tested multiple times. All right, now let's go to the daily time frame. On the daily time frame, there's something interesting that I'm seeing. I'll be expecting price to come into this trend line on the daily time frame. Now when price comes into this trend line on the daily time frame, I'll be expecting two things. It's either will bounce off and start going bullish, or will break below and start and keep going bearish. Now if I have a daily candlestick close below this trend line, then my selling bias is fully confirmed to this zone here. All right, let's go to the 4-hour time frame. On the 4-hour time frame, price still looks like it's coming into that trend line, but let me go to the 1-hour time frame. On the 1-hour time frame, this is that trend line. All right, and price bounced above this zone for a bit, and then we came out, broke below it, creating a new lower low. I mean, this is lower than this and this is lower than this, right? So, and it looks like we've gotten that retest and price is pushing lower, but I'm not going to jump on this trade now. Why? Because the reward, not normally, if the target was way below, then I would have just entered and used a wide stop loss. But why I'm not going to be jumping on this trade right now is because price has moved at least significantly away from where we should have hopped into this trade, right? So I'm just going to let it play out. I'm still going to be hoping for another pullback. So if I get that pullback into this zone, let's even say price opens on Monday and we keep pushing lower, but before we hit this place, I think we should see a pullback. So let's say price push into this zone, then goes back, then I will now be looking for selling opportunities around here to the downside. But not all the time price play out like that, right? So because of that, we need to draw our trend line here. Let's draw a trend line here. Let's capture this, and let's even bring it down here. Okay, let's do this. So I'll be expecting, normally this trend line is supposed to be here. So at the back of your mind, look at this zone, all right? So that in case price breaks above it, maybe let's say price pulls back and breaks above it, still readjust your trend line. Make sure you capture this zone, all right? So let's say price, we open on Monday and price didn't pull back from this zone, then I'll be looking at this trend line. Okay, I'll be looking at around this trend line to now jump in and do what, sell to this trend line. So that way I'll get something like a 2 or 3 or 4 to 1 reward to risk ratio, which is pretty much a decent profit to make, right? Now let's go to CadJpy. There's something interesting on CadJpy. I think let me just keep the monthly outlook. So on CadJpy, as you can see, I have two trend lines plotted here. This first one is capturing here, here, and before projecting it into the future, right? Then the second one is capturing here, here, and here. And now it looks like price is actually sitting on that trend line. Just like the UsdJpy, price is creating lower lows and lower highs. I mean, this is lower than this is lower than this, right? So it's clearly a downtrend, but price is sitting on this trend line. So is it possible that price is going to pull back from this zone on Monday or for next week, or price is actually going to come and attempt this zone, or price is actually coming to this zone? Well, let's go to the daily time frame. Let's see what's happening on the daily time frame. So on the daily time frame, you can see that first trend line, the second trend line. So price is sitting comfortably on that trend line. So but let's go to the lower time frames. In fact, let me go to 1 hour time frame so that I'll get a clearer picture. Let's open up the chart. Now this is the first trend line and this is the second trend line. So now you can see price has bounced off this trend line multiple times and is still bent on breaking that support. I'm sorry, I said trend line earlier, right? So support, I meant to say support. So let's say price breaks below the support next week, then I'll be expecting a pullback which is going to retest that support, now turning it into a resistance, and that first trend line, right? So I'll now look for bearish pressure to sell into this zone here, and that should give us some decent pips. Let me calculate. That would be a good 137 pips to the downside. That's pretty much decent if you ask me. But like, you know what price does some of the times? Price may not just come and break here and retest, or it may even actually break but not retest here. It may actually break and come back to retest this trend line. Price can be crazy sometimes, man, right? It can be tricky, so you should be prepared for all these possible manipulations. You don't just trade and not think in probabilities. As traders, we should think in probabilities. If this works, okay, this is what I'm going to do. If it doesn't play out like this and it plays out like this is what I'm going to do. I mean, that's the right way to approach the market. So let's say we break and we don't retest this zone, then price may actually want to come back and give all the old manipulation by coming back into this trend line to complete a third touch. And if it breaks above, then I'll still be looking at this other trend line here. All right, let me zoom out so that you can see where this trend line is coming from here. All right, so now these are areas I'm looking to for price to continue selling from. So it's either we break below here and retest here, or we'll come into this zone, or we'll come into this zone. However, I'm bearish on this pair, especially if we break below this trend line. I'll be looking at this trend line as our next level target. And if we break below that trend line, all right, we have all the space to the downside. All right, so let's take it one step at a time. So that will be all for today's video. I'm not going to be touching the USD pairs. Why? Because it's actually ranging at this moment and I'm not comfortable with that. I mean, I trade a lot of money and I don't want to give stories to myself or my investors. All right, so I'm going to be pausing on USD pairs for now. If anything changes, I'll be sending updates in the group. And if you're not if you're not on the Telegram channel, the link is going to be in the description below. And also, if you want to join our mentorship program or you want to get the Forex professional course, the link to the course is also down in the description of this video below. Do yourself a favor, grab that course. It's definitely going to change your life. People are benefiting from this course, guys. Don't sleep on this. Do something and change your trading struggles. All right, once again, thanks for staying to the end of this video. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.